Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan, and if you're new here, it is great to have you. We have some pretty big news coming out of the weekend as Bitcoin decided to finally break down out of this massive bear flag that we have been talking about, otherwise known as a pennant. Now, if you guys have been part of the channel for any time now, you would know that I've been talking about this a lot, explaining how bearish I thought that this was, and indeed, at long last, it has finally had the breakdown below the 50 EMA and all the way down to the final support of $30,000 to $31,000. Now, I want to talk about where Bitcoin's going to go from here because this is a pivotal point for Bitcoin, and if this breaks, we could see a lot more to the downside. So if that sounds interesting at all, make sure you guys stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this one. Now, again, doing a little bit of a recap here, the dead giveaway, in my opinion, for this was this support line for Bitcoin. Obviously, we rejected this resistance a whole lot on the 4-hour time scale, but the support line was really the key indicator for me, because what we saw here is the bounce, a couple more bounces off of this, and then boom, immediately this guy turning into resistance. And with all of these wick rejections on top of the 50 EMA rejection, this was the sign that Bitcoin was getting ready to go under, because not only have we rejected resistance, but we also rejected the 50 EMA twice. And then, of course, former support turn resistance is the dead giveaway and the sign that this is going to get bearish very, very fast. Now, with this happening over here, if we want to measure this out, Bitcoin dropped almost immediately 15 to 16% to the downside, all the way back to this final support area of $31,000 to $30,000. Now, this is a small little support area, but if this one does break, there's not going to be a lot stopping from Bitcoin to going at least into the mid-20s, if not towards the low 20s, towards its previous all-time high from back in 2017. So if we want to zoom out, I want to show you exactly where that is, because if Bitcoin continues to decide to want to spill, this could be the area that we are looking at right down in here. Now, measuring this out, if we are going to go from our previous low, or even from where we're at right now to this area, that could be another 35% to the downside in the least. Again, we do have a little bit of support at around 24,000, I would say between like 22 and 24,000. Not a whole lot, but that's still around 30% to the downside on Bitcoin. I would say probably 40% in a really bad scenario before it sees any kind of support. But this is getting a little bit ugly. Obviously, the bulls really wanted to hold this price point up here, and that's not happening, at least not for the time being. It could be the case that Bitcoin wants to bounce in here, and if we're looking to any kind of an upside target for Bitcoin, I would expect that the same resistance line that we have been using would continue to be used. If we want to draw this guy out just a little bit more, I would say that that would put us somewhere around $37,000 as resistance. Obviously, previous support turn resistance is now going to be a hard level to break. The 50 EMA is going to be another one. And then on top of that, we still have 37,000. And we are starting to accumulate quite the amount of resistance. Now, I truly do think that it's only a matter of time until Bitcoin does end up bouncing. And I think that it will have quite the large bounce when it is finally ready to have that bounce. But the way that this is moving, if Bitcoin is truly entered into this bear market, then this could just be the start. For those of you who are not familiar, Bitcoin often moves in 3 legs. So we could essentially say that this is 3 legs to the downside. This could very well just be the first leg. I wouldn't count this initial one up in here because I kind of view this as part of the head and shoulders and part of the top. If this is just the first leg in a larger scenario and we want to measure this out, and we want to stack this up, I mean, obviously that could bring us back all the way down to the teens. If we were to draw another leg from, where we're at in here, from where we're at right in here, another 40%, and then maybe another 40% from here, which I think would be a little bit too bearish for my liking, but that would bring us all the way down to around $14,000, $15,000, which, to be fair, it would make sense. I think that it would be somewhat reasonable for Bitcoin to bottom out around 16,000. This would also go hand in hand with the idea that most of Bitcoin's bear markets tend to bottom out between 60 and 80%, and that would be just in that golden pocket that we just talked about. So, where do I think that Bitcoin is most likely to go from here? Well, I think a lot is going to be told on how Bitcoin bounces at this region. Is it going to show a lot of strength? Is it going to show a lot of emotion? Again, it's too early to see. We're seeing definitely some pressure from the Bears, at least more so from the Bears than from the Bulls right now. I don't see anything too convincing on the MACD, and I really don't see anything too convincing on the 4-hour RSI as well. I think any kind of case for the Bulls making consecutive higher swing lows is starting to dwindle as well. One could argue over here that this is a sign of very bullish momentum. Again, I think that this is also too early to tell, but potentially triple bullish divergence on the RSI, just waiting for a breakout. A lot of consistently lower swing highs, as we can see on this daily chart. But, again, this does lead me to believe that eventually Bitcoin is going to see a bounce. I think it'll re-enter back up into the overbought territory at some point, but ultimately, Bitcoin has a lot more resistance at this point than it does support. I don't want to get too much more in depth on this for the time being. I think that we do have to wait around and kind of see where Bitcoin wants to move from here. But those are all my thoughts on the subject, at least for the matter right now. 200 EMA is going to be resistance, and moving back to the one-day chart, I'm very, very vigilant about this death cross happening. If this death cross happens, I would certainly believe that we are entering into the 20s, if not the teens, on Bitcoin. This could just be the sign of the beginning. If you don't remember the last time that we had a death cross, it was a pretty good time ago for the most part. When we entered into a death cross after the Bitcoin bull market up here, it was really just the beginning. So if we're looking at this from where we were at in 2017 and the beautiful bull market that presented us with, that would essentially be like saying that we are right in here. Clearly, Bitcoin dumped another 50% or more from where we're at right here. Bitcoin bottomed out at 3K, and if that's where we're at in comparison, Bitcoin could dump potentially another 67% if we want to compare it to the last bear run. Granted, I don't think that it will be quite as bad as the last one. But in the least, even if we were to cut that in half and say, what if it's half as bad? It could still have another 30% to the downside if the death cross happens. So lots of speculation here, but again, just using some historical analysis, these bull markets on Bitcoin tend to be pretty similar for the most part. I am watching this closely. We'll have lots of videos coming out in the time being. The way that I'm playing this right now, and again, nothing I say is legal, financial, or tax advice in any way, but the way that I'm playing this is that I am putting a lot of my small buy orders in between $30,000 and $36,000. I'm putting a very small fraction of my portfolio, fractions of a percent, back into Bitcoin between every time it dips. When we're having these red days and these red candles, putting in a fraction of my portfolio, maybe a quarter of a percent, half of a percent of my cryptocurrency portfolio back in. I removed it all out at 60,000, 58,000, and now I'm starting to put again, a quarter, a half a percent every time we're seeing these red daily candles, just a fraction of it back in underneath this area. So now I'm at the point where I'm probably up to 10 to 12% back in, and I still have a lot more to enter should it go lower from here. Again, really just kind of managing risk at this point. But this was a really nice dip to accumulate on, in my opinion. Ultimately, I'm obviously very bullish on Bitcoin long term. I don't want any of the perma bulls to come flame me in the comments, but I do think that Bitcoin has a lot, and I have to say that a lot because people tend to get triggered when I make a bearish video, but that's just kind of the nature of it. We go through bull markets and we go through bear markets, and I'm just going to say it how it is. But that's going to wrap up this video. If you guys did like this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more content like this one coming out in the future, and let me know your thoughts on Bitcoin in the comment section down below. I also want to hear, what is your top altcoin pick? I know everyone tends to have an altcoin that they like to shill. Shill all those in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to check all of those out as well. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.